The Arizona Diamondbacks got bounced from the playoffs before even making an appearance with the best offense in the league. Can they maintain being the best offense with the pieces they could lose this offseason? We're going to talk about it right now. Don't go anywhere. Welcome into another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast, brought to you by our friends at Bet365. Go download the Bet365 app right now. Use that code at PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. Welcome in, friends. As you know, I am your mayor of PHNX, occasionally known as Derek Montilla. This man next to me is the people's champ. It's one and only Damon Farrell. And of course, it's our closer, Archie Bradley. Of course, I wanted to start the show off because this is your first time being here since the Diamondbacks got bounced, to get your thoughts on what happened there in the final week to the Diamondbacks not making it into the playoffs.
Yeah, I said it pre-show, so I'm going to say it again. It's not what everyone wants to hear, but if you don't like it, play better. I think every year, every team controls their destiny, but the way this team played, the position they put themselves in July and August going into September, yeah, I mean, again, it stinks, but there's no one else to blame but the guys in that locker room. Yeah. They put themselves in a position, had a great chance to secure that wild card spot. And although we talked about the scenarios and some of the BS of scheduling and the Monday doubleheader, but the D-backs controlled their destiny and let this playoff chance slip out of their hands.
Does it hurt worse to come this close, like to be one game away? Or, I mean, does it just sting?
I would always rather be close and miss it than go into the later half of the season knowing you're out of it. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Right,
so right. It does hurt because we'll talk about it. You know, this team is going to look different. There's going to be some guys that we need to make decisions on, some guys that just quite frankly won't be back. And so, and like I said, man, like this team was fun. That's what I love about Diamondbacks. We're either going to stink, I think, or be this team that like everyone is like, oh, I love this team. I love the characters. I love the pieces we brought in, but like then boom, they're gone. Right. Yeah. And so how does this team sustain and maintain? But yeah, I mean, I think it's on the Diamondbacks. It's really frustrating, really disappointing. And I say this because I've been on a team that did this exact same thing.
Right.
So.
And how much did it hurt? Like
it sucked.
How long?
I still think about it.
Really?
I still think about. I mean, we're talking about I still think about some of the games in Colorado that year going into September. I think about blowing back-to-back games against the Dodgers. Yeah. We held first place the whole season going into September, and then just collapsed. We blew some games even when we were out of the playoffs. I think I blew the last game of the year in San Diego. Mm. And yeah, I mean, again, money aside, all this stuff, like, dude, you want to win. Yeah. Like, that's the whole point of playing. Losing baseball is not fun. And I've been a part of teams here in Arizona that have lost 98 games, 99 games, been the second, third worst team in baseball. And I've been on teams that have made the playoffs and like given it a good run. And so always better to win. It stinks coming up short. But yeah, I mean, we just had the opportunity and didn't play well. And especially, I mean, you talk about it. We missed it by 1-2 games, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of games throughout the season, but especially in September, there's a lot of games that you look at that you're like, man, that one slipped away from us.
Yeah.
Well,
that one slipped away.
Yeah. After last season, obviously you win 84 games last year and make the World Series. This year you win 5 more games. How do you balance that as a player, knowing that you had a better season than you did the year before, but it just wasn't enough to make playoffs this year? Like, does that make it, is it still as much of a failure in a vacuum, or is there some nuance into that?
There is. Again, it's a failure because you have to look at it from a professional and business standpoint. Black and white, we didn't make the playoffs. That was our goal.
Right.
Give us a chance to win the World Series. We don't have that chance anymore.
And that's what Hazen said yesterday.
Yes.
He said it was very binary. It's yes
it is.
or no.
It's yes or no. And that's the hard time people. But as a player, as a staff, that's the answer you give. That's what you say. But then you have to take a step back and analyze it from a different perspective. This team did a lot of good, and there's a lot of positives and a lot of stuff to build on. And I think that's how you balance, instead of just like, oh, we missed it, this sucks, season's over, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, dude, we saw some guys do some things. We have some ideas of where to go in the future. And you have to, I say it all the time, this is one thing I felt like I did a great job of, but I don't think we celebrate our success enough in baseball.
Right.
It is such a failure-driven sport where, again, like every team, you look at it, I bet every team has 60 losses this year, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Every team is going to win 60, except for the White Sox, maybe.
Yeah.
Every team is going to win 60. Every team is going to lose 60.
Right.
And the other 60 are up for the good baseball teams.
Right.
Right. And that's,
a great point.
Losing becomes such a consistent thing. Failure becomes such a consistent thing. I don't think we step back and appreciate or look at our accomplishments as much as we should. And I think this team has a lot of accomplishments and good things. Again, look at the market we're in. That's what I think as I've gotten a little bit further away from the game. And even when I was in it, look at what the Dodgers are spending. Yeah. Look at the talent they're able to bring in.
Yeah,
the same thing with the Giants. They're not far away from being really good again. We'll see what Snell obviously like in free agency. But again, we're never going to compete. Talent-wise, we can't compete. But it takes special pieces, development that we've talked about, to have a chance to consistently win the division. I mean, when the Giants won the division last in 1920, outside that, it's been the Dodgers for...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
like 10 years straight.
Again, I can say this now. It's not like I'm crying like, oh, this is unfair. But is there a point where we look at divisions and like the Dodgers have won 11 out of 12 NL West titles? Like something's got to change, right? Like that's not fair and consistent baseball.
Right.
And the D-backs, again, outside of a wild card spot, I mean, for the most part, we're always looking at only making the playoffs through the wild card.
Right? Yeah, I think, honestly, that's so fair. Like, I was having this conversation with someone the other day. The D-backs job might be a top 5 hardest job from a GM manager standpoint in all of baseball because of the division that they're in. Like, you didn't even mention the Padres.
Yeah,
the Padres have so much top-end
and they
talent.
have a lot of guys locked up for a while.
Yeah, and so the Padres have about as much top-end talent as you can possibly have in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers are going to outspend everybody every year. The Giants are one of the most consistent organizations in the sport. Like
they casually added the 3-time batting, crown champion, essentially, who has done it for 3 different teams now, right?
Just very sneakily.
Yeah, they just keep getting.
And he's like their 6th best player.
I know, like
yeah.
Right?
So I mean, it's just I think the Diamondbacks are in a tough spot. There's a collection of young talent that like. It's sustainable.
Yes.
This is a team that's gonna in a build that's gonna threaten for playoffs year in and year out for foreseeable future. But at the same time, it's just you're right. Like it's tough going into the year being like, well, hopefully we make a wild card.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, like this year, in my perspective, and again, I hate talking trash on players. I'm here to give a player's perspective and talk some honest evaluations. But yeah, like. Eduardo didn't really pan out this year. We've got him for a couple more years, and the Montgomery deal didn't work out.
Right.
That's where my perspective. If I was Hazen, if I was a GM, I'm very hesitant, at least on pitchers, to sign a guy that doesn't go through spring training.
Yeah.
Snell was an exception this year. I think Snell pitched really well, but like historically, I look at guys that didn't go through spring, they don't perform well. And they don't stay healthy.
And on top of that, he also had like some mental hurdles there to get over because he was obviously upset about the way.
Of course, didn't get the big deal. Like didn't get $25 million is still a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but
compared to what he did the year before and the position he put himself in to take care of himself for the long term, didn't really come through. And again, we talked about it. Ended up in the bullpen. Like who knows what his future? I mean, he's going to pitch somewhere next year.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is he's still owed money by the Diamondbacks and he has that player option, so he can. He can come back here, and that's at least a positive for him. Is that he has plenty of incentive to come back and be his best version of himself next year for the Diamondbacks because he's essentially auditioning for another team. Beyond that, right?
Correct.
So like that, there is a positive there, and we're going to talk about the pitching and some other things in regards to free agency this season. But I did just wanted to take a step back because again, I just like to pick your brain about this. And again, I know that the playoffs are an achievement in themselves, and you're absolutely right. I think maybe it has to do with the whole flush it thing, which some of our fans don't even want to hear that term anymore. But like Tori has talked about it time and time again, where you can't get too high on the highs, get too low on the lows, which is why you don't celebrate those achievements that you have throughout the season as much, because you can't. And I know you guys privately do it, and you guys have your moments that you share together as a team. But it does feel like, again, they had so many achievements this year, but the end result is not making it into the playoffs. Does it really matter if you get bounced right away, though? Like if you make it into the playoffs, let's say, and with the current format, you get swept in that 3-game series for the wild card round. Does that still make a big difference that you made it to the playoffs, even if it's a really early exit like that?
It does, because again, like last year they made it and made a World Series run.
Right. So you just never know.
You just never know. Yeah. But I still think there is, as weird as it sounds, like when I was with Cincinnati, we made the playoffs and we got bounced. Braves swept us in 2. We were done. You know what I mean? Our season was over in literally 48 hours. So I was like, did we even accomplish anything? But we did. There's the expanded playoffs now, so a few more teams get in, but I will never ever forget clinching the wild card.
Right.
And as a kid, obviously the ultimate goal is to do it in a World Series and hold up that trophy of being the best team. But you dream of that moment of popping champagne and putting goggles on and the scene of the locker room being taped up. And even if you only get that for one instance and then you get bounced and you're done, it's still, it's one of the few things in the game that you can never explain or experience unless you get to experience it. And it's something, again, I've never made it past the DS. I got swept by the Dodgers and been in one wild card, but still those champagne showers. And again, it's more than that. You get bounced, whatever, but it's accumulation of the last year from the day the season ended, the season before, all the work you've put in, spring training. You guys know, you've seen some of it, but the behind the scenes of a baseball season, from staff, analytics, players, trainers, travel, everyone, man. It's a celebration of, I think, people being selfish and, being a team and celebrating, man, like regardless of what happens after this, we are one of the 12 teams that gets to continue on.
Yeah. And it would have wiped all of the questions about those games that they lost and all of those little ups and downs away, right?
Because it's black and white. You made the playoffs. Who cares?
Yeah.
Those questions don't need to be answered. You found a way to win and make it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't, obviously, and none of the fans did put in as much as what you guys put in that season, but I can say from my experience, I was at the game, the 2017 wildcard game. Like that was one of my favorite sports experiences I've ever had. And that season ended with my least favorite team in all of sports ending our season. And I still remember that wild card experience of like how awesome that was, how cool it was to be there in person. So I don't think that it, like you're right, it doesn't take away from what you accomplish when you still get there, and really that's the most important thing, is getting there.
Bigger implications like that. You're providing memories of, again, I talk about it, it's important. You're providing a fan base. You're building fans more. And it's, call it niche. We don't need to hang a banner. I don't think you need to hang a banner for everything, but hey, we made the playoffs last year. When you're going after another free agent, when you're going after someone else or a sponsorship, whatever, hey, this is a playoff baseball team. Right. And I think for Arizona, the reason why it's disappointing for me is you make the World Series run, right? And like to hang your cap on back-to-back playoff seasons, again, for
huge.
The Diamondbacks, like I don't know, when's the last time we made playoffs in back-to-back seasons?
I think maybe 01-02.
And again, like this is a young organization historically. We've talked about that. But again, you talk about building blocks. You start to set a precedent, man. You make a World Series run, and even though it's just the wild card, back-to-back seasons, the D-backs are a playoff team.
Yeah, and that's how fans become addicted to you, right? That's how fans then really do feel like they live and die with this team. And I think that's one thing that they absolutely could have accomplished this year was just getting that, like, oh, we're back. And I mean, again, even if we didn't get a home playoff game at Chase Field, it just would have been great to feel like, like your team is moving in that direction of being a perennial contender and being there at the end.
And
of
I
the
feel
year.
like that's like, call it, it's not a setback by any means, but I felt like this could have been a defining moment for the D-backs where I just said it, but thinking about it more, where it's almost like a little speed bump, man. You get over it, back-to-back years in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit more, in a good way, pressure on everyone. You know what I mean? Like that's what I think is lacking is like, oh, like I said, we're probably only looking at the wild card. So whatever, we'll check in August, and then it'd be great to really roll into a season with some real expectations.
Yeah.
For this team.
And honestly, like, I know this again, that they still finished quite a distance back from the Dodgers, but there was a point, right, where they were close enough that we started talking about them potentially, at least momentarily, leading the NL West, and then things just drastically changed for this team. So, that's the way it goes. That's the way that downfall of this last month has been. It's been just unfortunate to see. What would you be doing today? Would you have gotten away from it all? Would you not be paying attention at all to the postseason
it's
or
weird.
baseball?
You have two types of guys that either pay attention or guys that completely shut it down.
Yeah.
I think both, especially when you're young, you're still interested. You love to watch baseball still. I still love to watch baseball, but and then as you're older, you have guys that you've played with that you have rooting interest for. You want to see those guys win a World Series, want to see how they perform. Yeah, it's just different. I mean, today, if I was a Diamondback, I would definitely be playing golf.
Yeah.
It's still hot, but it's not too hot. And then, I mean, we kind of talked about this pre-show. That's the tough part. I say the tough part, but planning starts now.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard Hazen and Torrey talk yesterday. They're planning right now, but as a player, you have to, like we just talked about, take a step back. Let's split this season down the middle. Let's put the good over here, the bad over here. What can I address? What can I not? What do I want to fix? What do I want to improve upon? I mean, there's so many different factors. Am I a free agent in 2 years? Do I have arbitration coming up? All types of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't come up with a plan now and start preparing for next year, you're going to be behind. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
So I would be doing that. And I mean, you start to build the team. You talk, I always like to talk to the D-backs, whoever our pitching coach and bullpen coach, and Torrey, you have exit meetings, where they talk about stuff, but hey guys, what do you really think? What do I need to do? Hey man, you were 92% fastball next year. You have to throw a better secondary pitch, more consistently. So, okay. So who am I going to find to help that? Let's find a guy here, and boom, you start talking to your trainer, your you start to set all these things up because you have a limited window to enjoy some downtime, but real quickly in November, most guys are back in the weight room getting after it again. So it's October 2nd today, 3rd?
Yeah.
You're looking at 3 weeks to 4 weeks before guys start approaching their off season and start getting ready for next season already.
No trip to Cancun?
There is. You just got to be smart about it. I mean, again, different priorities for different guys. You have to plan it out. I mean, the way I did it is this was a year-round business for me.
Yeah.
There's, again,
you never stop.
Never stop. But again, you want to make changes, especially you listen to people to change muscle memory, to change mechanics, to learn a new pitch.
Yeah.
This takes time.
Yeah.
And especially now in today's age, it's not get into spring training and roll into it. You better be ready to roll come spring and get after it.
We talk about maybe having that little bit of a break for the players there. Maybe you said 3 weeks. But somebody that doesn't really have that break is Mike Hazen.
Yeah.
He's got to get straight into it. And he obviously has a pretty big, important piece hitting free agency this offseason in Christian Walker.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
How do you see that situation playing out? Do you think that they bring Christian Walker back? They talked about him briefly yesterday. Mike Hazen kind of was trying to avoid the question and then ended up talking about Seawalk for about 2 minutes.
Yeah, he said I don't want to talk about free agency, and then I think it was 1 minute and 40 seconds of free agency, but it's because obviously they still don't know what they're going to do. He did have some very complimentary things to say about obviously the guys that had career years here, but I mean Christian Walker, you talked about him being a priority.
I think we talk about it in who else are you going to go get? Who else fills his spot? Gold Glove caliber defense. Again, I should have been a little bit more prepared. I needed season stats. No, he got hurt, but he's produced close to every year, 25 plus home runs, close to above 90 to 100 RBIs.
Yep. He's got an 803 OPS this year with a 26 home runs, 84 RBI. And like you said, that was with
oblique injury,
with that
missing
oblique
a month
injury.
plus.
121 OPS plus. I mean,
he's been, again, fact check me. He's been in my head as consistent as a first baseman as anyone else.
Oh yeah,
at least National League wise in the last 4 seasons since he's taken
only
since
Freddie
the Goldie
Freeman.
trade. Yeah,
Freddie Freeman, Matt Olson, and then it's Christian Walker right after that. And those guys are 40 home run, 35 home run guys.
Company there.
Yeah,
I don't know what that means financially, but
sure.
But also, I think there's a a testament to Walker finding a home here, what he's been through in his career, backing up other guys. But again, being a pillar here. I understand the Goldie trade. We weren't going to be able to afford that at the time. I know it's tough to swallow. He was our guy, but we didn't really miss a beat with Christian stepping in. He's won Gold Gloves. He's been the guy there. And again, you look at certain things. I'm not saying it's going to be cheap, but I feel like there is some sort of hometown deal to be made with Seawalk.
Sure.
In securing him. Hey, dude, you can live here spring the season, take care of you. I know you want to go back to South Carolina. We'll make sure you're taken care of back there. But let's work this out where you can be our first baseman into your late 30s.
What's more important, the money or years? Is it like the security of the years? Like,
I think it's the individual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some guys want less years and more money. Some guys like the security. I think it's really dependent on how guys want to play and how they see their career finishing out. That's one thing I've always, again, I understand it from a financial standpoint, but I always assumed Phoenix and the D-backs would be more of a lure for free agents.
Sure.
Like personally speaking, being able to purchase a home here and live here for spring and the season.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would put it at 50%. Let's call it 40%. 40% in Florida, 40% in Scottsdale, and then 20% work out at home wherever they work out. But 40% of Major League Baseball players work out here in the offseason.
Yeah.
There's facilities everywhere, the weather.
Yeah.
That's what I found myself doing. Even when I didn't play for the D-backs, I still stayed out here and worked out here in the offseason. So there's a lot of priorities from being able to be a baseball player, but also still have a family aspect of being able to stay at home, have a consistent home, have family here. So I don't know. I always hope that, again, I keep bringing it up because it's important for people to understand Phoenix, the D-backs being a young team historically, that it grows and becomes a free agent destination because of getting to stay at your house in spring and then roll into the season is one of the biggest luxuries I've ever been afforded. Like going to Cincinnati and then Philly and then Miami and Anaheim is awesome. I love that I got to experience playing other places, but having to pack up 3 different times. And then again, like, well, am I going to keep my lease in Arizona all the way through the off season?
Yeah.
And what if I have spring training in Florida? Like,
I imagine you stop unpacking boxes.
Yeah,
at some
you
point.
do. So what I'm saying is I think there's some very big things working for us as the D-backs to make something happen with Seawalk. And again, Marte's locked up. It puts you lock up that right side. I
think the biggest thing is that obviously this was one of the best years offensively, right? And we know that the Diamondbacks, might have squandered their most potent offense in franchise history with their pitching staff being kind of at the bottom tier, at least as far as the numbers go. But part of that free agency is, who do they focus on? I hope Joc Pederson feels the way you do. I would love for Joc to come back. He was a huge
I feel like same
for this
thing.
year.
I feel like Joc, again, I'm not here to try. I feel like Joc could probably still play every day.
Yeah.
But Joc's in that later part of his career. He's a great veteran piece, a great clubhouse ad. Again, I think I know he built a home out here. So would make a lot of sense. And I think, again, we talked about it. There is a lot of positives returning to this team.
Yeah.
It's, again, how do we, as a mid-market spending team, fill the gaps and voids competitively?
Right.
I see here that Joc says he actually enjoys the flexibility of short-term deals, like 1 to 2 year deals, maybe with an option. So
get traded, win a World Series. He's done it,
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that helps the Diamondbacks because they're not a franchise that's just divvying out huge long-term contracts.
It's been, again, until we get to the upper echelon of spending money outside of your core guys that have proven it, I think guys like Joc and even one-off guys, it's going to be 1 to 3 year deals max.
Yeah, right.
I think we have to be because, again, until something changes, which, again, I don't know where baseball's at with gosh dang it. Give me a second. What they did with Ohtani, like pushing his money back.
Deferral.
Yeah, deferred payments. Yeah.
The biggest atrocity in the history of baseball.
There's
where they're literally making money off of because based on the deal they have to put so much aside, right? So they put it into an investment where they're making money.
And again,
off of
it's not. I'm not sitting here trying to cry and like, oh, this is unfair. But
I am.
The Dodgers should have to pay $70 million on their payroll to Ohtani. That is a massive advantage from a team who already outspends the Diamondbacks by $67 million
But
to be able to afford a player like that, and then to even do it with, I think they did with Teoscar Hernandez. They deferred like $2 million.
Yeah,
it's like,
well, and Ohtani makes so much money off of his, endorsement deals and such right now that it's a great investment for him. And the only reason why it's not is because, as Jesse would say, today's money is not tomorrow's money.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's actually,
with inflation, the Dodgers are actually paying significantly less than $70 million today in the future.
It's the biggest crime in baseball.
It really is. I said it. It's an atrocity. It really is an atrocity to the sport.
I think more so it's the rich getting richer, right? It's like the very wealthy team that has been able to stay at the top based on their spending over the years is getting, finds a way to get the best player, even though they're kind of maxed out financially.
Yeah, and like poor me, like you said, we can cry about it, but look at the last 15 years. How many division titles have the Dodgers won?
Right. And the problem here is that like the Diamondbacks somehow made this two-headed monster of Pederson and Randal Grichuk that somehow became one of the best DH situations outside of Ohtani in all of baseball. And they probably can't afford to bring either guy back because they had career years. Like, it would be great for Joc Pederson to come back, but he had a 151 OPS plus, a 908 OPS, 23 home runs, 65 RBI.
He's going to get paid somewhere.
And that's in a part-time role.
Yeah, like crazy.
That's not even as the full-time DH. And then you had Randal Grichuk, 140 OPS plus, 875 OPS, 12 home runs, 46 RBI. And Randal Grichuk felt like he barely played baseball.
He did.
Right?
Both those guys, I mean, personally set themselves up great for their future and continuing for not two guys that were out at all, but two kind of role players who now are, going to be individual role players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're going to be looked at in that role from bigger teams that are going to be able to spend more money.
And Grichuk especially, right? Like he just got a chance to kind of show out without putting too much stress on himself, without going out there and playing every day, but still showing that he can DH. He can be very valuable as an offensive player, but he also played the outfield pretty well.
He did. And then he also wasn't really, his splits weren't that bad. Like him against right-handed pitchers was still a pretty solid average to above average hitter this year. So I think that he probably is looking at this payday or this offseason as an opportunity to, be an everyday starter somewhere. At least that would be my inclination. Joc maybe more so is kind of destined as a platoon guy, but I think Grichuk really helped himself out this offseason.
Well, I have a question for you, and that is, what the hell is wrong with the pitching and how can they fix it? I mean, when you look at this team's starting pitching ERA, 4.79, 27th in baseball, relief pitching ERA tied for 25th at 4.41. Like, do you think that it's a matter of, again, consistency at starting pitching? And then it is.
It starts for me. Health is always priority. When Merrill and Gallen are both out for stretches of time, those are your two anchors. They never got a chance to get a flow and a rhythm going, which carries into the rest of the rotation. Again, Eduardo was hurt, missed time. I mean, guys that were supposed to be consistently 1, 2, 3 punch, even Montgomery, again, guys just didn't perform and stay healthy. Every team deals with injuries, right? Especially in the starting rotation. But the time that our starters were out, they just never were able to build that flow and consistently, go into a game where, like, man, we've got Gallen, Merrill, Eduardo going. Like, we can we can beat this team. Like, we're, what I mean? And it just, there wasn't enough consistency of those guys pitching. And it, especially coming into September, it just wasn't built up and able to roll through. I mean, a couple of those games you have – that rolls into the bullpen. I mean, we can talk, but it rolls into the pen, man. Early on, we talked about struggles. The starting pitching wasn't there. It led to a lot of early bullpen issues, a lot of inconsistencies.
Right. A lot of early exits for the starting pitching this year, like a lot, even with good outings.
But that's the game, man. Like that's freaking baseball right now. It's what pisses me off. Like, I understand. Again, this is where I'm all for guys getting paid earlier and having security, and like we go back to letting a guy throw 115 pitches. Yeah. Like, again, I'm going to date myself. We talked about it because it is old. 2015, my major league debut. How many pitches do you think I threw? 22 years old.
Okay. I'll say 95 because of right now. I have a feeling it's different.
I'm going to shoot a little higher, but I would have guessed lower initially, but I'll go 103.
6 innings, I think I threw 114 or 116 pitches. Wow. First major league start. I go to San Francisco the next week. I throw 98 and 7 or 6 2/3, 98. Like, again, look it up. Tell me a rookie pitcher that's thrown over 100 pitches this year.
Yeah.
Like,
it doesn't happen.
I'm not saying that I'm not for like, oh, let's just wear these guys out, but we got to get back to a point where guys are pitching deeper. Guys are, that's where these inconsistencies come from, man. Guys aren't pitching past the 5th and the 6th. And you go back to really good teams and the good teams I've been on, when you can hand that ball over to your 7, 8, 9, and you create this real system where those guys get rest when you're losing, like, it's not a bad thing, but like, let's say 8 guys in the pen. You have your 4 guys that pitch when you're winning, and you have your 4 guys that pitch when you're losing or tied. And that's how you stay healthy and consistent. But you need that starter to get into at least the 6th. But we got to get back to letting guys go, man. Like the pitch counts and the stuff. I'm all for health and keeping guys healthy. But in my opinion, like, look at Tommy Johns are at a skyrocket rate.
Yeah.
Like, we're training to throw harder than ever. Like, let's just accept it. But we gotta pitch guys deeper in games, man. It creates too many inconsistencies throughout the season and throws off what is supposed to be, I'm not saying an easy system to manage, but at least a more preferable system than, out of 5 games, 3 starters didn't make it to the 5th. Like, that's tough to manage. And it's even happening in the minor leagues. Like, the minor leagues are even more of a joke of innings that bullpens are covering versus starters. And the game needs to figure out a way to get starters deeper into games.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that I feel like has changed with time watching baseball. And again, that's what makes me feel old is things like closers being dominant closers. It feels like there's a handful of those guys in the league versus it more felt like.
Should Clase win the Cy Young, by the way?
No, I don't.
I don't think it's been announced yet. I saw.
No, I'm saying he didn't. I'm saying, should he be like considered more seriously for
the Guardians called him the favorite on their Twitter, and people were up in arms about that.
They really were.
That was sorry, just popped in my head. Like,
no, I mean, it's incredible, right?
Incredible.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing is that those guys they seem to be more and more rare, so they should be recognized for their efforts. But of course, we have more to talk about. We have more with Archie. I asked him plenty of questions. It's going to be your guys' turn to ask those questions here shortly, but. We do thank you for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. We thank so many of you guys for being here in the chat today. Of course, if you have not subscribed, do so now. Hit that notifications button. That way you don't miss whenever we go live. And of course, hit that like button before you get out of here. HTL, hold the line for this guy and hold the line for this team for next year. If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, make sure you're subscribed on your favorite audio podcasting app. And leave us a review. We appreciate those 5-star reviews. They do mean the world to us. When we come back from this break, we're going to get those questions from you for a new segment we got called Ask Archie. And also, we're going to talk a little bit about the playoffs, even though we don't really want to. So stick around for that. But of course, check out our friends at Empire Today, because Empire Today has been around here in the Valley for a very long time, helping you get the best flooring that you can get in your home. They keep it simple with a curated product selection. They will find out what you're looking for and find you options that are more geared towards your needs versus making you look through thousands and thousands of samples. They also have their virtual floor designer, which is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space in your home. It's easy. All you got to do is just snap a picture, check that out, and see how those flooring will look. They also offer quick, easy, and convenient service. So you get someone in your home that day and eliminate the back and forth to a store. They also make it very easy when it comes to warranties. Empire Today services their own warranties. If an issue does arise, call Empire. They service all warranties themselves. You won't have to track down a manufacturer's phone number or any of that. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 discount when they use that promo code of PHNX. Restrictions do apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. And remember, it is a great time of the year to get this done. We got the holidays coming right around the corner. So of course, if you want to get those new floors in your home, get it done now before November rolls around here. Also, check out our friends at Bet365. You know, Bet365 just makes watching sports more fun. They did help pioneer live in-game betting, and they offer the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. So right now, new customers can choose between 2 offers when they open an account at Bet365. Use that code of PHNX365 to sign up. Deposit $10 and choose either between a bet and get offer, where you can place a $5 bet or more and receive $150 in bonus bets, or a first bet safety net offer where you can place up to $1,000 bet, and if your qualifying bet loses, you will receive a matched refund in bonus bets. It's a great time to get down on Bet365. Football is here, and you know, I know I'm a baseball guy, but football is very, very fun for you over at Bet365. They have their early football payout offer, their early baseball payout offer, all of that. So make sure to get down on all of those offers they have over at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use that code of PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov. All right. Well, it is time for us to debut a brand new segment, which actually won't be a segment. We're going to have a wonderful piece for you diehards out there. And today's questions come from our diehard. So if you are not a diehard yet, go to gophnx.com, find out how to become a diehard. You get exclusive content. You get a free t-shirt from the phnxlocker.com, and you will get this segment, which is Ask Archie. So we got Archie here.
We can make this a segment.
We're going
to
to talk about this. I mean, we have some questions to ask, and I know Mailbag Monday kind of turns into Ask Archie when you're around anyway. So we just figured we'd give you the floor here.
I like that.
And we got it from our friends from the Die Hard. So let's check out what questions we got for Archie. Our first question comes from Austin, and Austin asks, what is a typical relationship with the player and the coaches and the manager? What sorts of things or conversations for your position coach about, and what things get brought up straight to the manager? Like, just as far as, I think he means the chain of command, and like what your relationship with is with the pitching coach versus Torrey.
Everything starts with how the manager is. Like, there's different types of managers, right? And how they handle player relationships. We've obviously talked about Torrey, and he's more on the loving side.
Sure.
Still always, the one thing I've learned from every manager that I appreciate is all of them, as they should, they shoot it to you straight. Yeah. You know, when we talked about black and white earlier, like there is some weird times where you really don't know your role, but for the most part, they do a great job of like, hey, you're not playing well, we're going to move you out of this role. But like for me, let's just talk about me, like 16 into 17, you know, going from a starter to reliever, kind of wanting to be a leader on the team early on. Like Torrey called me in. He was like, hey, don't let your role as a reliever define your role as a leader, you know? Yeah. And so like my relationship with Torrey early on was like, man, this guy's giving me some freedom to be myself.
Yeah.
We talk about early kind of weird stuff, but play music in the clubhouse, set up themed trips, just stuff like that, where early on I had a great relationship.
With the
great relationship with Torrey. And then Torrey kind of did a thing, I'm sure some other managers did it, where Torrey kind of had like a players council. He had like a starter, reliever, infielder and outfielder, and like maybe one or two other guys, so maybe like 6-7 guys that he would call them once a month and kind of like, hey, what's going on? What do you not like? What do you not want? What do you want? Different things like that to kind of keep a temperature gauge on the team and what was happening in the clubhouse. I think one thing good managers do, most of them do, but the clubhouse is the players. Like, don't get me wrong, coaches come in there and managers come in there, but there's kind of a sacredness to like the clubhouse is yours. That is, the locker room is the player's sanctuary. And so giving players the freedom to be themselves. And then coaches, man, that's what's weird. Like we talk about players in and out, 1 year's deal. Relationships can range from as deep to a guy being your best man in your wedding to, I mean, outside of seeing him at the field, that's all you talk to him for, you know? Yeah. And then same thing with pitching coaches. Like my time in Arizona, I think I had 4 pitching coaches. So you get, you know, you take the good and the bad, what you want to hear, what you don't, in and out. And they all have things you like and don't like. And every year it's kind of just, what do I call it? Seasonal friendships in a way.
Yeah.
You know, the next season is, what am I going to get? Who am I going to get? And so it's kind of a carousel, I guess, of managing relationships that are both personal and business and navigating those as you get older.
That's interesting. I've always thought of it as like summer camp in a way.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Like I still wish we just had name tags. For spring training is the most interesting time of the year. Because spring training, you have 60 guys in camp. You know, 30 of them aren't making of it. 10 of them are your prospects that are coming up to take older guys' jobs. 20 guys are there just to fill. It's you don't know anyone's name. It's crazy.
Is that Torrey situation with the player council? Is that a normal thing or is that a Torrey thing?
I think it's a Torrey thing. I mean, didn't have it in Anaheim, didn't have it in Cincy or Philly, but I've heard of it other places.
Mm-hmm. And this is different when, like, you've talked about like the player representative and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's like different. This is like like again, say right before the season starts, like spring, Tori would call that group in, and it was the same group. It wasn't random. It was the same group of guys. And like, for example, like, hey, what do you guys think of food on the road? Is the food on the road good? How about travel? You know, you guys, we have 2 off days coming up for the start of the season. Do you guys want to leave before the off day, or do you want to leave that, you know, just stuff like that he kind of gave us, the option to put some input into things that matter to us. That, like, it's little stuff, but yeah, like being in Arizona, playing in LA, we do have the luxury to stay the off day at home and fly out the night of the off day, like late, and have a full day at home instead of spending the day in LA when it's only a 2-hour flight. You know?
Right. That makes sense.
And same thing from food to travel to all time. It didn't matter as little, or again, it happens. Say a younger kid was having a problem with the bullpen coach and he didn't know how to approach it. Like, again, just saying this for example, not saying this as a deal, but say Ginkel's struggling and he doesn't know how to approach Fed. And he's having, hey, I think Ginkel's struggling, Tori, like, you know, maybe talk to Fed about Ginkel and how we can approach helping those guys, you know.
Because he might tell you guys that as his teammates, but might not go to the coaches.
What I think a lot of people don't understand, this may sound crazy because there's coaches are great and there's so much teaching and stuff, but at the big league level in the middle of the season, you either get the job done or you don't. There's not a lot of time to like coach or help guys out. Like some guys have some leeway here and there, but so again, being able to filter that, like Tori said, to help mend a gap or bridge something or help a guy out quicker, stuff like that. So I thought that was really, really cool the way Tori did that.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, at least, like in my job, like I would feel very appreciated with something like that happening. I mean, you get a lot of input, and I mean, honestly, that's an important piece of having a good, you know, chemistry filled locker room.
And not only that is we saw things. It wasn't just talk. Like you saw things we talked about go into play. Like I said, from travel to food to whatever you name it, like we address things, and some were like, that's what I love about Tori. Be like, yeah, that's not changing, guys. Sorry. That's the way we're going to do it. She's like, oh, okay. Next subject. Like, you know what I mean? Like, cool. So,
but like, I mean, it could be something as simple like, hey man, we haven't, like, some of the guys have been complaining that there's not enough healthy like snacks
or
like that, right?
Like, hey Tori, dude, we've taken BP 16 days in a row. Like next series, can we at least have 2 days? We do like early optional BP, but like we stay off our feet. And he's like, yeah, dude, like for sure. Or like, again, mid-season, this is when I got a little comfortable. I'd always get scared, but I always got to the field early, and guys knew that I could go in and talk to Tori as I was on the, you know, and guys would come back, Archie, dude, it's 103. Get us out of beat, or get us to wear shorts for BP. So I'd be like, crap. So I'd like roll out like, hey Tori, what do you think about shorts today? Or maybe no BP. We scored 16 last night. You know what I mean? Just saying, like maybe no BP today. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it wouldn't. But I loved the freedom. I think that's, you know, you're talking about even coaches, 50 people in a clubhouse, whatever, with different backgrounds, different egos, different ethnicities, and trying to manage and coach. And I think, you know, an insight that you guys may think is weird that we haven't talked about, we can move on to the next question of this, but I think there should be more, I don't know, like hard coaching during games. I don't think like you watch a football game, like when guys get their ass chewed. You don't really see guys get their ass chewed in baseball.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. You mean like they come back from making a mistake and you just see the coach like lay into
a little bit. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're going to get people on board with that.
Yeah, I was actually, this is a great, I think, segue into a question that a lot of people in the chat would love to have answered. Like, does Tori do that kind of stuff behind closed doors? Because everyone in the chat, like, they watch our post-game shows after a loss, and it's always, you know,
Tori handing out juice boxes.
Tori's handing out orange slices and juice boxes to the boys. And it's like, I think we always try to push back on that and be like, we are not privy to the back end conversations. I mean, it is like you have to view this. That's the thing. That's the tough part about it. It is whether you want to use the word political or business. There's so many layers to this, right?
Right.
Like you do have to watch out for a player's feelings, and you do have to watch out for his agent, but at the same time, like that's where money and technology has gotten, I'm not going to say in the way, but altered the way we view sports and athletes and stuff. Like there's a great clip, I'll get into my point, but of Jim Leland absolutely cussing out Barry Bonds after one of his MVP seasons, like in spring. He's like, Barry, whose effing team is this? Is it my effing team? All right, then you're going to listen to me. I'm the effing manager. And like in front of everyone. And again, like you do that to a Bryce Harper or Mike Trout, who knows, that may affect them in a negative way. But there is, again, I think we get paid a lot of money to win games. We get paid a lot of money prepare to win games. mistakes happen. And I think there's some mistakes that you're okay with that are hustle mistakes that you see. But when there's just simple mistakes that are made that like cost losing a game, I think we should address those more. I don't like, we're grown men. We're getting paid a lot of money. I think it's a lot easier to handle like, hey, you lost the game today.
Yeah.
Well, no, we had runners on the game. No, you blew the game in the ninth. You lost the game. Give me an answer to why you lost it.
Yeah.
Or like a coach, like again, dude, like I talk about JT Realmuto a lot. I love JT Realmuto. I can't remember what I did, but I forgot. I gave up a homer to someone. And right after he came in, he's like, Arch, what the fuck were you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I think that's, I can't say that.
Yeah, that's
sorry, my bad.
No, that's all right.
But that was in my head. That was like, he's like, we talked about that over and over. You cannot throw LeMahieu up and in. Yeah. You wanted to throw fastball. I let you throw it. Like that can't happen. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, okay. He's like, no, you hear me. Like you can't make that mistake again. And it was like, honestly, one of the first times a teammate had kind of put me in check or like held me accountable, called me out to where a lot of times.
And like told you cannot do that.
We talk about it. Like there is a lot of, clear the page next game, right?
Yeah.
But dude, like we talk about, we missed the playoffs by one game, maybe a little more accountability. Right. I'm not saying the D-backs don't have that. I'm just saying I would love to see more of that, man. Yeah. Like recently the Brady, Baker Mayfield stuff, have fun. Like, dude, there is some of it where we need to be a little more accountable and I think chew guys' ass a little more.
Right. And I think that's the problem is that when, in my opinion, Torrey is very good about flipping the switch when he gets out on a podium and giving those answers and not making it awkward, because for us as media, sometimes it can be awkward.
For sure.
And we understand. Like, it's crazy to me at sometimes that I've been in some guy's locker after he blew a game, putting a microphone in front of his face, just thinking internally how I would feel.
Hey, what did you think of that pitch you threw? The one he hit a homer to lose the game on?
The one that I blew the game with? Yeah, I didn't think very highly of it, that kind of thing.
But also there's some, as I've always handled that well, that's part of the sport, though. You have to answer that. Even though it is monotonous and you're going to answer it again in 2 weeks, that's the duty of playing baseball and your job as a media member and our job. And so, I would say Torrey definitely gets into guys' butts behind closed scenes. I mean, and if there's anything ever that needs to be addressed, it gets addressed. Yeah. So, and again, it's always like anything in any business, sports, like there's things that coaches can address, but if you're players, you have a few solid leaders on that team that have respect and can hold accountability, a lot of things get taken care of through those guys.
Yeah. All right. What other questions do we got here for Ask Archie? Brandon Buck says, how would you handle Dre Jameson? Starter, middle reliever, back end reliever? We know Dre's going to be back for this team.
I would say this, from my time moving to the pen and having success early on in 17 and 18, I always wish I would have got a chance to start again. Yeah. I had a chance. I wish I'd have been more vocal after 17. The D-backs were like, hey, what do you want to do next year? You're one of the best relievers in the big leagues, but whatever, there's a chance for you to come back in the rotation. What do you want to do? And I was kind of like, man, I just want to roll. I'm pitching well. Whatever role. Do you want to close? And I was like, dude, just pitch me. Like, I just want to pitch well. I'd finally
almost too amicable for
I'd kind of finally established myself as a guy in the league that can pitch. And I was like, I just want to pitch well. I wish I'd have been a little bit more vocal and asked to go back into the rotation. So I would say you just monitor them. You like early me, like people say I was a failed starter, but if you actually break down my numbers, they weren't that bad.
Yeah.
Technically, like we could get into that another time.
As a reliever, right?
I was better as a reliever, but also you look at my 16, I won my last 6 starts of the year.
Yeah.
I was 10-9, which doesn't sound great, or 9-10 out of 5, but I struck out 148 over 140 innings, whatever. Outside of Kenta Maeda, I was one of the best rookie starters in 16. So
he's not flexing on you guys.
No, not at all. I'm just saying I was really looking forward to going into the rotation in 17. We had Corbin, we had Shelby Miller.
Yeah.
So getting back to Dre, I would just let's find the thing is he needs big league innings. Like that's how you determine that is he needs to pitch in the big leagues consistently. Yeah. And let's find a role where he starts to have success. And then again, we talked about there's going to be things that pop up. Let's find spot starts. Let's keep him available. I think the biggest thing is don't pinhole him into singular innings. Like that's what I always prided myself on when I stayed in the pen was I want to throw multiple innings. Okay. I want to get up to 3 innings at least because that gives me the option, especially when you get into playoffs and what teams are looking for. Man, you show a team you can go 2+ in the playoffs into September. That's a big freaking deal. Yeah. So I would monitor Dre and let's find him a good spot and then see what can happen.
Well, and that would be a great spot for him just based on the fact that it feels like the Diamondbacks' long relievers right now tend to be guys that are more of those negative,
Yeah.
where they're losing
Yes.
kind of games versus having someone like that can eat up a couple of innings
and keep you in that game, bridge that
Right.
gap of a 1-2 run game,
Right.
and then get you into the bullpen when you've tied it up, or again, you have a chance to tie it up. That's what I thought made us so good. And so, yeah, I mean, I think Dre's a great talent, and the worst thing I think is guys just get labeled way too early.
Yeah.
I mean, again, but look at Michael King in San Diego. I mean, guys just,
Sure.
there's
That's
just a lot of guys. And I think
yesterday.
in today's game, we talked about it, until starting pitching becomes a priority of having to throw 200 innings again. I mean, like, there's a lot of guys that have great seasons that are throwing 160 innings.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's easy to do. I'm just saying that's more attainable than the past workhorses that you had to be in a rotation.
Well, and Dre has some similarities to
Yes.
you. He
Correct.
really does. He's got that.
That's
dog
why I
in him.
say, like, he's got it in him. Like, I think there's a great role for him to have some freedom to, again, that's what I loved about the long innings is, especially when you're trying to figure out who you are, you have some innings that you get your shit kicked in. You give up runs, and you got to go back out there and know, like, responsibly, I need to cover 2 more innings, you know? And so you learn a lot about yours. Like, that's why I wanted to go back in the rotation. The bullpen taught me how to pitch. It made me understand how not to nibble, how to throw strikes, especially when you're dealing later in games with 1-2 run games, how you pitch around guys, how you protect the guy on deck, who you take your matchups against, where you can get beat, where you can't. Where now I can transfer that into starting and have a whole better idea of how to navigate a lineup.
Yeah.
And when I have 2 outs, I can pitch around Freddie Freeman and attack Teoscar. And, you know, if I do get beat by Teoscar, whatever, tip my cap. But I'm not going to let Freddie crank me when really I don't think I have a lot of stuff to beat him.
Right.
And I can just go around him.
Right.
Where I didn't understand that my first 2 years. I didn't understand pitch counts, and I'm getting really deep, and how to get quicker outs, and how to produce a ground ball, or how to produce a double play when there's a ground ball hitter up. I learned so much in that pen, where I just would love to see him be patient and allow him to kind of develop and see what it can become.
I think it's interesting. I mean, the Diamondbacks have had, I would say, net negatives in their long reliever type of roles in the last couple of years. And having that net positive of Dre Jameson could be pretty impactful on this team, and I mean, get you a couple more games here and there on the season that would have been the difference between not making playoffs or making playoffs this year. So,
and we know the bullpen was taxed, right? Like,
yeah,
the bullpen
absolutely
got overused, and that's because they didn't really feel like they had that guy that could secure those couple of innings.
Correct.
Jordan Montgomery did all right in that role, but you still felt like he wasn't going to keep it a clean game. You know what I mean? But he did enjoy really being out there in the bullpen, which is still hilarious to me that was like where I get it though. I get it. You guys out in the bullpen, you guys have a lot of fun.
It's different. We need a whole nother couple episodes to go over that.
Just go over
down
that.
there.
Oh, we'll do that. But all right, what else we got here? You want to read this one, Damon?
Yeah, Gary the Cat says, how much of the fan chatter can you hear when you're on the mound? Has there ever been something you've heard that had really got under your skin, or at the end of the day, or are you thinking, I'm playing the game that I love, making a lot of money doing it, and your words mean nothing?
Both. I think early on in your career, you take words a lot more personal than later on in your career. But yeah, there's times where I remember a great story I have. When I'm in the zone and I'm pitching well in a loud stadium, you hear it, but it doesn't really factor in. I say it doesn't factor in. I'll counter that with something else. But I'm pitching at Chase, middle of 2018, I think, and I was having a terrible second half. It was in our collapse. But I've got a couple jerseys in the team store, a couple Archie Bradley shirts, Fear the Beard, Team Archie, blah, blah, blah. And dude,
the brand was strong.
Yeah, I am giving it up every time. I'm like 4 straight outings of 2+ runs given up. I mean, I'm struggling, but I'm still throwing whatever. I'm in the middle of a game against the Dodgers. There's like 10,000 people there. I give up 3 runs in a row. And this guy I had heard him yelling the whole time, and he hit me with it. He go, Bradley, I just ran up to the team store and your shirts are half off now.
Oh my God.
And I remember hearing that on the mound. I was like, damn, that's a good one.
That's a good one. That stings.
That would make me laugh too.
Yeah. Where I will say where I noticed crowds and really started to notice the difference was pitch comm, no pitch comm.
Oh, really?
Once PitchCom was introduced, like at first, I think when they first talked about putting a microphone in our cap, and I was like, this is stupid, dude. Like, what are we doing? And then I remember pitching in Yankee Stadium back-to-back days with the Phillies, and PitchCom and no PitchCom. PitchCom malfunctioned the second day for the Yankees, so they cut ours off to make it fair. And I remember trying to look at signs and like literally looking at JT and being like, cool, like the stadium was shaking. It was so loud versus like fastball outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, we talk, that's why I'm such a big component of putting butts in the seats, like D-backs fans. Cause like you do notice, you do hear, there is a vibe and an excitement that you start to feel. And it's funny, man, like the best is, you can pick out individual voices better than you think, honestly, especially when a guy's talking crap consistently. So the best is you're up there like arguing with this fan in your head while you're pitching. Like you're like, dude, screw this guy. Like, dude, okay, well, crap, I need to figure out how to throw his fastball right now. Like, let's get back on track. So
you strike him out and you're more worried about,
what that one guy thinks.
Yeah, take that. Except other than the batter walking off into the dugout.
And even, like I said earlier on, like you get a ton of DMs and Instagram death threats. Hey, you blew my bet. And you just learn like that's life. You know what I mean? Like if you don't take it seriously, you laugh with it. Like obviously I think there are some players that maybe do have some more serious things to worry about in some places. Playing with Bryce and Mike Trout, dude, and Ohtani, I saw some crazy stuff where you actually do worry about some of those guys' safety in some places. But
meanwhile, you're like, good to be me.
I had tons of guys, especially with the betting stuff becoming more popular. A ton of guys send me their parlays and bets and like, you effing idiot. You couldn't give up less than 2 runs to the Yankees. Like and like some guys I'd laugh, a couple guys I'd send $30 to cover a beer or something like that. But you take it with a grain of salt. And ultimately a lot of it, you just learn like outside of it, man, it's another day. It is, you are getting paid a lot of money. I do think there's a line that's kind of been crossed since COVID of kind of taking things a little too far. Like I'm all for good shit talk. You want to talk trash and like you want to bring up statistical numbers and all that, I'm cool. But like anything, when you start getting personal, you bring up family, like, all right, that's when now we're equal. Now I do want to hop in the stands and let's exchange some words. But you want to talk about the homer I gave up to Matt Kemp, and Matt Kemp's my dad, like I love that. Bring it on. You know what I mean? Like, come on, I'm all for that. Like, fun.
There was one guy at a game, and it's for me, it's those games where there isn't a big crowd, so you can hear that one guy. And like there was one guy who was like, you went 0 for 16 in the last 12 games. You bum. And like everything he ended with this notorious you bum.
Yeah.
And it became like part of
my I'm all for that. You as a fan, but again, let's keep it statistical and on the field. When you get personal, all right, let's meet outside the clubhouse. You know what I mean?
I mean, personally, if I sent my parlay to a player, which I don't do this, but if I sent it to a player and I was like, you blew my parlay, and he sent me back a Venmo for $30 and said, here's a beer on me, I'd be like, this is my favorite player
of all time.
I think
ever for life. I'm locked in.
Brent Rocker for the A's sent a jersey to a guy. But I've always wanted to do a funny skit. This pertains to the bullpen or any athlete, across any major league sport, I think can understand this. But I would love to have fans like us, like athletes, like have all of us athletes in the Valley. Kyler, Book, KD, me, Griner, all these people back here just yelling at you guys while you're trying to do your podcast right now. Asking for your pen. Can I get your computer? Can I have your microphone? Let me get your shoe. Let me get your wedding ring. Let me get your Apple Watch. People just think that we get everything for free and like, we're going to give you our glove. That. And then like, but then right after, Dick, let me get your autograph. Like, dude, you were just mother effing me. And now you're asking for my cleats, but I would love, let me get your pen. Let me get your pen. It's like, dude, I need this pen. Let me get your computer. Like, dude, you think that PHNX just gives us Apple computers? What are we doing here?
No,
but I think it would be hilarious to go to all these different office settings and act the way fans act while people are trying to do their job the way they do to us. I'll buy a ticket if I have to. I'll pay the price I need to pay.
That's a good little skit. I mean,
that would be. But yeah, all in all, I think it's all in good faith, and initially it's what keeps the sport going, right?
Yeah,
so
you're right. Well, we'll have more questions for Archie here momentarily, but we do have some more from our partners before we move on. Got to check out our friends at Game Time. Of course, if you want to go to any kind of get tickets for going to go see people do their job, basically, like Archie wants to do, you can do that by saving last minute with Game Time. You can save up to 60% off by buying tickets for sports, concerts, comedy shows, theater, and so much more. Game Time has a new feature that we've been talking about called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. All you got to do is click on the Game Time Picks button, and it will filter out the fluff to show you the incredible deals that you can get for any event you're trying to buy tickets for, so you don't waste time searching through all the options that they have out there. Of course, Game Time does have their zone deals as well as their all-in pricing, which makes it so much easier for you to see what the final price on your tickets is going to be, with no surprise fees at checkout. They also offer the lowest price guarantee. Your Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Damon, what time is it?
Game time.
It's game time. Also, check out our friends at Sanderson Ford. We are proud to have Sanderson Ford as our official vehicle sponsor. And of course, Sanderson Ford is proud to partner with the Arizona Diamondbacks. They are giving back to you with big payoffs like 0% financing on a new 2024 F-150, Escape, Edge, Explorer, and Expedition. So check out their 65-acre facility, which is the largest Ford dealership in the nation.
Check out the diner.
And check out the diner. Do not miss out on the Starliner Diner. The food is incredible. It's very, very inexpensive. It almost takes you back to a time.
It absolutely does. I felt
day.
like I was like transported 30 years back.
It was like $4.95 for a cheeseburger. Get out of here.
It was unbelievable. Like an old style diner.
Archie exists anymore?
Oh yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, we'll take you over there. But they thrive at Sanderson Ford on a no hassle, no pressure, and no nonsense sales approach. Go get yourself some lunch and then pick out a car. Get deals on the 2024 Ford Bronco Sport for 5.9% APR for 66 months plus $2,000. Must be financed through Ford Motor Credit, OAC. Also, help us celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month with a Dia de los Muertos inspired trunk or treat at Sanderson Ford. See dealership for details.
I heard if you go to Sanderson Ford and say PHNX sent you, they give you $100 off and a free cup of hot coffee.
That's wild.
Yeah,
I would like to check out if that works.
Just throwing that out there.
I'm gonna check out
about the coffee.
We got a couple more questions for Archie here on Ask Archie. What else we got here? We got Desert Cat 430 wants to know your favorite non-chase field pitching mound. Very specific to the pitching mound too.
No,
not just
I like
the
that. No, and
but
they are as weird as it sounds. It's just another segment we'll get into, which I think is a wild fact, how football may be close, has so many different playing surfaces that aren't consistent.
Yeah.
Right.
Like when you think about
dimensions,
even like material used from clay to dirt mounds, like Cincinnati's terrible mound. Low, same thing with San Diego, to the question. San Diego and Kansas City.
Wow.
Yeah. San Diego, like full clay. Like every time, even late in the game, pitching, like when my feet would step in the dirt, like everything was flat. You could see your cleat marks in the clay.
Yeah.
And like that with the turfist, the light dirt mixed over in East was the best. Consistent. You found your spot. There wasn't big holes in the mound. If there was, they could put clay in there and fill it. But I think San Diego is the best mound in the league.
That's awesome.
That is interesting. I mean, I've always loved that about baseball, the different dimensions thing. Like, I think that makes it so unique. I mean, it's not just like, oh, regulation field, regulation hoop. It's like there's a, you know, in Yankee Stadium, you hit pop flies into right field and you're hitting a home run.
Yep.
In San Francisco, they forgot to build a bullpen.
But it's crazy to think about all these statistics that are kept on different level fields. Like the outs in Oakland, RIP, in foul territory compared to everywhere else. You know what I mean? Like there's just the inconsistencies. I say inconsistencies, but differences. I like it, but also as I get older, I'm like, this is really strange that there isn't, hey, every mound needs to be this clay and this, you know what I mean? This parameter or whatever.
Especially when it feels like there is a desired result there, right? Like you're saying, like you off the top of your head still know that San Diego is one of your favorites.
San Diego,
can we just do that everywhere? Why can't we just do that?
Cincinnati mound sucks. Boston sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could rank them all, but there's definitely ones you favor over others.
My favorite thing in baseball is when the teams like kind of build their roster around their specific intricacies of their ballpark.
And
so
who
like
would do well there.
So like when the Red Sox, you know, they have like a Dustin Pedroia back in the day,
but
who just gets straight under the baseball and hits it over.
But analytics wouldn't allow that now. That's the problem with that. At least in my opinion, like that's where like I would love to see that more of analytics for this ballpark. You know what I mean? Instead of overall analytics. Like we're gonna play 81 games here. analytically put together the best team for this.
Yeah, at Yankee Stadium.
And maybe they do try to do that. I don't know.
I think Yankees try to get left-handed power hitters,
for sure.
Or if they get right-handed guys, they try to get guys that have a lot of oppo power, like a Stanton or a Judge.
LeMahieu.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there are teams that do that, but the Yankees seem to be like maybe the team that does it the most
because they have the most versatility to like go out and target particular guys and then get those guys. You know what I mean?
But I always found that very interesting. I think that like I would love to know what the D-backs do, particularly like is Alek Thomas more valuable to them in a long-term sense because of how much ground he covers in that massive center field at Chase Field or just other things like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got one more question for you. What do we got there, Kev? Nicholas says, I'll ask the only question that matters. What is his beard care routine?
How much time do we have?
Let's I mean, we can briefly just, this is a daily routine, right?
So
like this
let's say right
just,
now we're about, let's clear the mic so we can I'll get back on it.
Yeah.
So we can see it. So we got some grays coming in the corners. We'll consider a fresh dye.
Yeah.
Just because I'm way too young to have this. It's not even grays. These corners become white.
Right.
So fresh dye, we'll start there. You dye it up. And then it's kind of a process. You cut the hair first, and then the hair leads into the beard. I've got a guy, Lev, my barber for forever. Shout out, Lev. But it's, unfortunately, I hate to admit it, it's about a 30-minute beard trim edge up process.
Wow.
Because the thing about it that a lot of people is like, how do your beard? Like, I do have an exceptional beard. I'm not afraid to admit it.
That it's not bragging.
It comes
when it's
in
true.
because I'm able to grow the underneath. That's what gives it this like status and like, you know, outward appearance versus just coming off the cheek. I'm able to grow the underneath that comes out. So with that, there's a lot of layers in there that if you don't cut the right way, you can mess up a beard real quick.
Yeah.
So it's about 30 minutes there. And then, naturally, you got to wash it. And then every couple days, you got to do some sort of, in my opinion, some sort of either like cream or oil to keep the skin underneath soft and not all dry out here in this Arizona heat.
Yeah, because it doesn't see the light of day, but it's under there baking.
When I'm playing, I'm a lot more meticulous with it. Like I put a lot of product in it right before I go out to the game and stuff. Now that I'm not playing and stuff, I'm a little less concerned with it.
Was Brandon Marsh there when you were on the Phillies?
God, love that guy.
Did he try to, wet your beard like his hair?
What I love about Marsh is like old school, like with the hair and the beard. He was no problem. I don't even know if he's taken a shower since he got traded from Anaheim to Philly, and I love that.
I feel confident in saying he has.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we thought, but you're just confirming facts for us.
For the 3 months I was teammates with Brandon Marsh, he is so high up in my book. We were talking about like, and I was like, dude, this guy doesn't care about the tips I want to. He's like hasn't showered since ever. Like, just now, I mean, one of the best, especially now with Charlie Blackmon leaving, like stepping up to be maybe the best beard in the outfield. Like,
he's got a duty to maintain for sure.
I may have to text him, let him know that. I'll let him know Charlie has passed the baton to him.
Yeah, that's honestly a big thing. That's sad to lose Charlie Blackmon. You guys, the beard gang lost.
I love Charlie Blackmon.
Lost a huge member. Yeah, for sure,
without question,
for sure. Well, of course, we know the playoffs are still happening, even though we're not a part of it. And of course, thank all of our diehards there for your questions. We appreciate you guys so much. We will be bringing you much more Ask Archie in the future, but we do got to talk a little bit about the updates from the playoffs.
Yeah,
let's take a look at our updated playoff bracket with the current wins in there. We got the Mets winning yesterday over the Brewers. We have the Padres winning over what looked like a very exhausted Atlanta Braves team in that game. Right. How did that happen? We're all looking for the guy who did this. The Royals and Tigers, both with big wins there. I felt like over, some pretty big opponents. Tigers taking the first game behind Tarek Skubal over the Astros, and then the Royals taking their first game against the Orioles in a very, very low scoring game. So, there's all of that. I mean, what did you think on the results of that first round? Obviously, we're not just these are the first games, but any surprises there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Mets win.
Yeah.
Surprising.
Well, they took a game off there.
They did take a game off, which
that's
again,
fine. Yeah, but
BS. Again, I have a lot of complaints with Major League Baseball. I probably need to keep to myself. Scheduling. What are we doing scheduling these early day games? Like we're talking about trying to engage fans, grow the sport. We've worked 6 months to produce the best teams and the best quality of baseball, and we're gonna start games at 11
on a Tuesday.
Detroit is a working city.
Yeah,
like. Just have Monday Night Football, Jared Goff, the line. Like, let's give these guys the love and appreciation that they deserve and allow this fan base. I mean, I know people still took off work and showed up, but from a general national viewing, let's give all of us a chance to. I want to watch this game. I had to work. I'm jokingly, I had to work yesterday, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to clear my day so I can watch this midday game.
Right.
It's not college football. It's not the NFL. Like, we need to work for our viewers. We need to promote the sport and putting people's eyes on these playoff games. They're important for the future of baseball.
It reminds me of last year in the NLCS when the Diamondbacks get scheduled a 12 p.m.
like what
Thursday game in the National League Championship
Series. It goes back my days with the Reds. We played a playoff game against the Braves at 11 a.m. in Atlanta.
That's just crazy.
And like, even for players, like, dude, okay, you want to play a 1 o'clock game. I get that. We're used to that. But 11 o'clock, 12, that's not even in our schedule. I know it sounds crazy, but we've had these games all year, and now you're going to throw an 11 o'clock or a noon game, which sounds crazy, but that's an hour to 2 hours, 3 hours difference in a normal afternoon game. So now it's bus times are different. Everything is completely different, and it's mind-boggling for, I think, like a sport that's wondering why they're having a hard time connecting more.
Right.
Like, show it in a better place.
They
the blackouts.
They didn't even stagger it either, right?
No.
Like, games were going on at the same time as each other. So it's like, if you had a whole day of baseball, then maybe you can explain it, even though, again, other sports with their big games, sometimes their big games run up against each other.
But it's a lot easier to get the attention of the National Football League in the country to watch 2 Monday night football games. Like,
for sure.
Right? Versus 2 midday playoff games. That, again, they are important, but they're wild card. It's not the most important time, but still, like, let's give everyone a chance to appreciate. I mean, Detroit again hasn't hosted playoffs been in the playoffs in 10 years. Let's celebrate that. A midday game is just.
And one of the questions we got was like, one of the questions I received was like, what is with open seats at a postseason game? It's like, well, not everybody can take the day off at 11 a.m.
That was
work. Watch a game.
That was the thing all last postseason. The Phillies fans were getting on the Diamondbacks fans and trying to roast us. And the Diamondbacks fans have their own problems.
Correct.
I'm not going to sit here and get on my high horse and be like, oh, we're the best fan base in baseball. We have a lot of our own issues. But that being said, when you're scheduling a championship series game at 12 p.m. on a Thursday, and then you have other people coming at Diamondbacks fans for your game's not sold out.
It's the low ticket prices. Sold out. Yeah, because it was like you could go on to Game Time and find like, $50 or like sub $50 tickets. People have
for a
jobs.
Championship
People
game. Have to work. Like, this is
correct. And I understand that these things are mapped out way in advance, right? These scheduling and playoff and promotions and scheduling, all this stuff, but. Again, like I think it's inexcusable. And I think that point even more, like, nothing is better. And again, bigger markets don't have to worry about it as much, right? Because they're the bigger markets. But again, dude, like, these first rounds of the playoffs are huge. And again, you talk about empty seats, man. This is not playoff baseball is supposed to be packed, standing room only. You dream about of October baseball.
Yeah. Well, and also I just think in general they don't promote it as well as they could either, because again, if you are going to have those day games, you've got to make people excited and like almost do like March Madness where it's like we're at games all day.
Teams getting in last day of the season, but there needs to be a couple more days to separate the season and travel and promotion. I just don't think we're doing the sport enough justice for. Again, how big of a deal it is to make the playoffs. I don't think people understand that.
Well, we did give our picks right now, tentatively, for who we have for the World Series winners. And interestingly enough, we all kind of had very similar picks here. We actually all kind of felt a Yankees-Phillies World Series might be a little inevitable. Archie and I went with the Phillies, and Damon, much to Sean DePaz's chagrin, went with the New York Yankees, mostly to hurt Sean.
I assume I'm going to have to answer for this.
He's going to text message.
I'll probably text him, get out ahead of it. But
that's a good idea.
But it's funny, a little inside baseball before the show, we were talking our World Series predictions, and Derek had said, I'm taking the Phillies. And then I was like sitting there and I was looking at the bracket and I decided to go with the Yankees. Then Archie strolls in and he goes, we ask him and he goes, I don't know. I'm going to go Yankees out of the AL, Phillies out of the NL, and I'm going to have the Phillies winning it all. And it was just like all three of us just kind of collectively on the same page.
If it happens, this clip will lift it.
It is, but obviously. There's teams and everyone wants to go, but there's two teams, maybe you say four at the beginning here, but for sure the Phillies and the NL, it was like this team is either World Series or bust. They went there a couple years ago with Harp, Schwarber, Taiwan, Wheeler, Remuto. I mean, it's a stacked of accolades and pros, and they've played together for a good, consistent number of years. Same thing with New York. They went and they added talent. Stroman, Cole, Weaver, these guys. I mean, they're just looking at it from a true going to win. These teams should go play for a World Series, in my opinion. I think the other teams are good. I think the Brewers are good, but they're all younger, a little less like, dude, these two teams, in my opinion, are star-studded, and that's what I want to see. Like, I think that would be the two best teams, and that's my pick.
I'm interested to see if this year the layoff has.
Yes,
big
I'm
of an
glad
impact.
you said that. I think that will be very important to see.
Yeah, if these teams can be ready. I mean, I saw some of their schedules, and I was like, I don't know. It looks like a lot of time off.
It is,
play one
and that's what I said. I mean, we'll touch
week.
on that real quick. I mean, from both sides, like, let's take the Phillies. Like, I'm pitching, right?
Yeah.
The way this kind of works sometimes, like, we're going to play an inter-squad game, right? Or the Phillies may keep a couple minor league guys pitching to come up and throw to the players, right?
Sure.
So they see live pitching. But same thing. You're going to have a playoff game coming up. You're going to tell these guys, hey, don't throw up and into these guys. Don't take a chance of hitting Trey. Don't take a chance of hitting JT.
Yeah.
So I'm a pitcher. Let's say I am pitching that. Well, I leave a few more pitches over the plate during this simulated game because I don't want to hit this guy. Well, now I go to pitch against the Mets or the Brewers, whoever I'm playing next. Well, I might leave a few pitches over the plate because I'm not as sharp.
Yeah.
Same thing as a hitter. You're not seeing 95, 99 like you're going to see.
Right.
Like, again, I talked about it. I know they're taking BP. I know they're working out. But where else in the baseball season, which I think it's the most important sport to play every single day, do you take 5-6 days off without playing a game?
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned it in a show we did a while ago of like, I think this is the year that we'll see whether getting that bye is really a disadvantage to
we're
these
talking
teams.
about producing a product, and is this an advantage for teams that win? We think the rest and getting but is it actually providing like last year? I think only the Astros moved on, right? There's the Braves and Dodgers, especially the Braves. I thought the Braves were going to win it all, which they got beat. Whatever, you don't like it, play better, win. But I think we evaluate this year if this time off is the best format for this playoff.
Well, they have time now to at least have analyzed it in the past and figure out a way to keep these guys active and what makes the most sense,
correct.
right? So we'll see what kind of impact that has. We will be back tomorrow with another 1 p.m. show, so make sure to join us for that. We appreciate you guys so much for joining us today. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at cap_caveman with a K. We are all Damon's dogs. He is at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. Bark, bark.
Yeah. I was waiting for it.
That's what we got to do. Of course, you can follow Archie at Archie Bradley 7 on Twitter, Instagram. That's the place to follow him for sure and see all those wonderful pictures from his life. But make sure to check our show out at PHNX_DBacks. I forgot the guy on the 1s and 2s today, of course, Kev. We got Kev Tom Wrights. That's KEVTHOM Wrights, WRATES. I have to spell it out, and I don't know why, but
because there's two different types of rights, and Tom could be without an H.
Yeah, he makes it very difficult.
He does make it pretty difficult. It's his fault,
and then yet I'm the one that suffers.
And you're apologizing, which is big of you. I'd say that takes a lot of accountability.
I'm trying here, but we do appreciate you guys so much. Of course, like I said, our show is at PHNX_DBacks, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you again for your time. We will see you tomorrow. Hope you have a wonderful evening. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you get to talk about your team being in the playoffs and not other teams.
Yes.
We all silly like the mayor.